Hello, everyone. Welcome back if you were here for previous sessions as well. My name's Alexanne. I work at London Road Marketing as a marketing specialist, and my specialty is copywriting. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So thank you to Chinook Community Futures for putting this on again and inviting us to speak. So let me just share my screen here. And start the presentation. Here we go. Looks like it's still loading for me. Oh, there we go. How to create a landing page that converts is our topic for today. Now it's going to be slightly similar to my previous session, which was how to write copy for your homepage on your website. I'll get into the difference between those two right at the start there. Okay, so what is a landing page? The easiest way to explain it is to compare it to a homepage. So the homepage, that's pretty obvious. I think everybody knows what that is. Whereas a landing page is a page that's made specifically for people to land on from an external source, like an ad or an email. So I'll give you a scenario or two. Imagine you have a specific product that you want to push for, a couple months of the year. You know that it's going to be popular, you're going to have a lot of it. You can make an ad for that specific product. But let's say that if you sent people to your homepage after they see the ad, they're going to have to scroll around, try to find, more information on that specific product, and they might get lost in a bunch of other different pages on your website. Whereas if you send them to a landing page instead, you can craft the landing page specifically so that they make that purchase for that specific product. So it's very highly targeted for people that saw the ad. And for that reason, it's not linked elsewhere on your website. Typically, it can be, but it's generally not meant to be, displayed promptly on your homepage or anything like that. Having said that, people can get to that landing page organically. So for example, if they were to search something in Google and a lot of the keywords hit what you had written, then they can get to your landing page that way. But typically your landing page will be specific to an ad or an email campaign perhaps. Another example would be, say, if you're in a service industry and you want to create a lead magnet. So for example, an ebook or something valuable that you can give to people in exchange for their contact information so that they become a lead, right? So you would craft your landing page to gather that information from them as opposed to pushing your purchase. It's just kind of bringing them into your funnel. There's a lot of information that we can talk about concerning landing pages, concerning lead magnets. So I won't get into that, but it's perhaps another topic to look into if you're a service company and that's something that you're interested in. So I'll get into the specifics of landing pages. I'm not going to get into how to physically create them on your website builder. I'm just going to talk about the copy and how to make the copy conversion oriented. Now, why would you use a landing page? I did touch on that, but to summarize, it's to make purchases easy to complete. It's so people don't have to go searching around your site to find out how to make a purchase or how to get that ebook, things like that. It's to convert specific purchases, and it's a good opportunity to match the message from your ad as well. And by that, I mean, if you have some copy or some text in your ad, say it's a social ad, you want to use that same messaging on your landing page, because if you talk about one thing in your ad and then something entirely different on your landing page, that's just a bit of a disconnect and people are going to get confused. So it's a good opportunity to work on consistent messaging and just really drive home your main message there. Okay, so this is a suggested layout. I'm going to go through each of these sections in detail, but I'll just walk you through the basics first. Starts with your above the fold area here. You might recognize this from the previous session if you were here, where I had just a benefit statement and a differentiation statement at the top here. But now you're going to write one specific for your offer, one of each. We've got a section for a testimonial, which is again different from your homepage because this is one testimonial, not a sliding section or a collection of them. And it is at the very top to get your social proof in there early. Then we're going to go through the benefits with nice icons because we love icons. Then we'll go into features, which is again different from your homepage. I didn't recommend listing out your features on the homepage, but if you're talking about a specific product or a specific service or something you want them to download, you can list the features because they've already shown interest. It's not necessarily an overload of information at this point. Then this section here below additional features is for your social proof. So I've got in brackets here some different examples that we'll get into. Then below that is your frequently asked questions section, which is optional, and I'll explain why later. But then at the bottom, there's your last chance to close the deal. Okay, so these are some tips to keep in mind as you're writing copy for your landing page. And of course, the first one is going to be concise because I've mentioned it many times in the previous session, so I'll say it again. It's good to split things into short, bite-sized chunks because nobody wants to read a giant paragraph of information and they just won't. So make it easy, short sentences. If you have to split things up with lots of line breaks, do that as well. But it is a bit of a skill to shorten your sentences as well, so it's a good thing to work on. Every header counts is important because you want people to be able to scroll through your landing page and get the gist, the main message, just from your headers. Because you can't assume that they're going to read all of the text on your site. Most people won't. So you need to make sure that all of the headers give that main message and include the benefits in there too. Because if you hold your benefits back just into your sentences, into your body paragraph, again, there's no guarantee that they're even going to read that. People have short attention spans. And it is kind of a persuasive tactic as well to weave your benefits into your headers. And use power words. I know they sound kind of cheesy, but things like now, simple, free, exclusive. The best way to do this, I like to go through my copy after I've written everything and then honestly type in power words in Google and I'll scroll through and see which ones I can throw in there. It works. And then it kind of takes the stress out of, when you're writing as well. And be specific is another tip I like to throw in there because the more detail you give people about what they're going to receive, it kind of eases their want to make that purchase. So for example, a 20-minute session to learn landing page copy techniques. That's pretty specific. It gives a specific amount of time and it tells you what you're going to learn, right? And I recommend using one call to action. This is a very common tip that you'll see when you're looking at writing landing page copy because, again, your whole goal for this landing page is to drive that one action. So one call to action means one button, whether that's add to cart or book consultation or whatever that may be for your business. Don't confuse them with a bunch of options. It's tempting to say learn more, but then they're leaving your landing page and you've lost them, right? They may hang out elsewhere on your website, but your goal is to keep them on that page until they make that purchase. And then sprinkle your call to action in often because every section you're going to try to convince them to make the purchase. And if you succeed, there should be a button so they can, right? They don't need to scroll all the way down to the bottom time-based. So if there is a time limit to your offer, you can mention it as long as it's, ethical. Don't just make something up just to create a false sense of urgency. But I'm talking about if you have a product that perhaps you want to put it on your garden before summer, something like that. You can mention it, and it does help the sale for sure. And then weave the benefit throughout your entire page. This is another thing that it's good to go back and see where else you can sprinkle in the benefits to your copy once you've written everything. But definitely keep it in mind as you're writing too, because it will help. Okay, so the first section is where we have our offer benefit statement and our offer differentiation statement. So again, similar to when we were writing our homepage copy, you're going to ask, what's the main benefit that readers get from this offer? Or what makes my offer stand out from other offers from competitors, right? The example here is kind of hard to see, but it says drive more leads and bigger deals with Sales Navigator. So that's the main benefit, right? You're going to get more leads, bigger deals. And I do have a tip for coming up with your benefits that I'm going to mention later on. So I am going to move on and touch on that later. About the testimonial section that we mentioned before, I know in the other session we recommended to choose one message per testimonial or per review that you're putting onto your website. Whereas for this one, we want to choose one review, really carefully select it so that it summarizes your main message. So since there's only one there, it has to be the main message you want to communicate. So, spend a decent amount of time sorting through the ones that you do have. You can edit it for readability. For example, if they didn't use proper grammar, you can fix that. You can shorten it. You can perhaps take the beginning, edit out the middle, keep the end. Just make sure you put in an ellipsis there to show that there's information missing. And I do recommend making the font nice and big, just kind of a design thing, but you do want to catch their attention and show that social proof early. And the idea behind social proof is that people want to buy things that their peers have approved, right? So let them know that this is something that their peers approve of and let them know early. We're going to add more onto that later, but it's nice to just get that out of the way first. Build a bit of confidence and trust. Now for the benefit section, I do recommend using icons, just a bit of a design thing, but it helps people interpret the information. It just helps with readability for sure. But I would add in a header for each icon for sure. And then maybe one sentence of short copy if you need it. Not always, but again, be precise. And this is for benefits, not features. So my tip for differentiating between benefits and features, say, for example, all of the things you're coming up with, perhaps it's a feature, then ask, so what? So for example, remember those 7-year pens? That was a product that I had purchased because, the feature of that is a pen with I don't know, technologically advanced ink or something. They probably have a patent on it, right? That's just a very fancy ink, but they're not going to tell you that. You're going to say, okay, it has really fancy ink. So what? So it lasts a really long time. So what? So you don't have to buy another pen for 7 years. And that's the so what game. So I definitely like going through that for each feature as well. And now moving on to the features. Put your main features at the top there first. That's kind of self-explanatory, but just make sure that you're sorting through them and pulling the ones that are most important or most relevant to your audience, because the ones that are most important to you may not be the ones that are most important to the people that are making the purchase. So really get into their mind frame and find out which ones make sense to highlight. And then throw in any additional features below. I like to just put them with check marks. It's kind of things to catch them in case they were looking for a random thing like, biodegradable packaging or made in Canada, things like that that make sense and that people would compare to other companies. Just additional things to make them feel good about making the purchase. Okay, so getting into the social proof. It is good to show authority with name drops. So the best example of that is when you're thinking about, a toothpaste ad and it says recommended by so and so dentist. That would be a name drop. So if there's anyone, you know, locally known or perhaps that has a few letters after their name that's recommended your product, throw it in there. It helps to build credibility and give a sense of authority as well. I also like to throw in company awards or badges when you can too. So I know these aren't directly related to the product, but it does help build credibility for the whole message as well. And then showing logos of previous clients, that would obviously relate to if it's a service industry and they've given you permission to do that. But again, people are going to see those logos and it's something that they recognize, they associate it with you. Then it's, if it's a larger company or one they already know, then you get more trust right away. If it's a product, show logos of the brands that you carry, perhaps. Again, if it's a specific product, then this might not be as relevant. But if it's a specific product category, like you want to clear out all of your soaps, then perhaps you can list the different brands of soaps that you carry, right? And then again, you're just building trust because if they recognize those brands, then they associate that with your company, and then you're getting that trust as well. And of course, throw in more reviews here. That's an excellent way to build social proof. And this is where you can either auto-populate them from Google, or you would do that if you have lots of positive reviews and you can kind of trust that when they come in, they're going to be mostly good reviews. Whereas if perhaps you get a couple negative reviews, then you might not want to auto-populate them. Then you can just hand select them, again, picking one message per review, and then pasting them in there into your copy. Now, the frequently asked questions section is interesting. I like to throw it in here kind of as a last chance to clarify any questions that the reader might have, just, any hesitations especially. I know that there's lots of questions that can come up for, depending on your product. So maybe talk with your customer service representatives, find out what those questions are if it's not yourself. And yeah, so answer them in that section so that they don't have to leave and wander through your site and try to find the answer elsewhere. Again, you want to keep them here until the sale is made. Having said that, don't overload them with information. So hide your answers behind the title or the question. So for example, down here, what if I like holes in my socks? Then you wouldn't put your answer as a paragraph below here. They would have to click the question to see the answer. And then the reason that this section, I call it optional, is because you should actually be incorporating these answers elsewhere on your site. Some people say that you shouldn't have a frequently asked question section or page because you should be answering these questions elsewhere. But I know we're trying to write in a concise way, so that's not always possible. But do keep in mind that if there's questions that come up, very often and you can put it somewhere else, then yeah, go ahead and do that. If not, leave it in your frequently asked question section. Now, your last chance to close the deal. Of course, weave your benefit in here again, but this is your chance to really make sure you've got a compelling header. Definitely throw some power words in there. Put some good thought into this section for sure. and tell them what to do. So don't leave them wondering. If you need a sentence to describe what's going to happen next, say, for example, great, you'll get a confirmation email from us within a couple minutes. You can throw that in here. Or if you say, if it's book consultation as the call to action, say, we'll get back to you within 24 hours, things like that. Any additional information that they need to know, make it obvious. Just tell them what to do. So to summarize, you want to match the message to your ad. That's your biggest opportunity for this landing page. You want to make sure that the ad that you're promoting has the same message as your landing page, because that's what's wrong with your website in this scenario. It has a different message. It's more about brand awareness, very general information, whereas here you want to match that message very closely. Don't waste any headers. That's actually probably my favorite tip. One of the things that I check constantly as I'm reviewing my copy that I've written, I've got to make sure that every header has a bit of a benefit in there. It's describing a benefit, and that people can scroll your entire landing page and, yeah, know the main message. They don't have to read all the small text. Make sure you're weaving the benefit in there. Again, something to check after you've finished. And sprinkle in call to actions. Definitely an important one. Another option there, though, is if you want to have like a scrolling button, say it's frozen on the top right or the bottom right corner, things like that. Those are nice to have. But if you don't do that, just make sure that your buttons are every, I would say, second or third section. You don't need to have a button in every single section, because then it's just a bit needy, I guess. But yeah, definitely have them in there though.